when they meet tonight. Jurgen Klopp says he's just as desperate and greedy as the Liverpool fans to claim another trophy.
You can dream every day. The dream of winning silverware is more a given thing, so you know you want to have it, and we all know how desperate our supporters are to get something. They can believe me that we have exactly a similar mood. We're exactly as greedy on things like that as we all are, they all are, and that's all to say about it. But we have to prove it on the pitch. It's not that I cannot win the FA Cup in a press conference, so we have to be really good in the games.
Well, the security of the Premier League is always the first priority. I think we're in the position where we go for it, and it's not a league game. There's no points available. It's win or bust. Simple as that. It's a cup game. It's different to the Premier League. It's less pressure. It's a glory game, and you go out and seek the glory and try and win it. If we're to get through, we have to beat Liverpool. Simple as that.
Have to beat Liverpool, as simple as that. Will they have to come up against Virgil van Dijk, then could potentially make his debut? You make debuts in your time. But to go into a game, to go into a cup tie, to go into under the lights at Anfield against Everton, what particular problems would that pose for Virgil van Dijk?
I think he'd take it in his stride. He looks so relaxed, he looks so comfortable in his surroundings. Obviously, he was at the Leicester game. He just looked as though he belonged there. I don't think there'll be any nerves from him. He just looks such a relaxed, cool and calm customer. So it'd be fantastic for him if he does make his debut. And what a game to make his debut in as well.
I guess a lot of is said about having a price tag on your shoulders, but it can work the other way round, can't it? He suddenly is full of confidence. A club like Liverpool is willing to pay that amount of money. They have that much confidence in his ability.
I think from the money that's been thrown around at the moment, it is a lot of money, but I think you've got to put it into context. You know, yes, he has become the most expensive defender in history, but that'll probably last for a year, then there'll be somebody else. It's the way that football's going now. We talked about Paul Pogba, world record fee last summer, you know, and everybody's saying that's extortion money. Now people are saying, I tell you what, it's not a bad price. That money's going up all the time. Players can't decide that. You know, you are worth what a club is prepared to pay for you. So yes, it'll give him great confidence. Does it give him a little bit of pressure on him because of the amount of money that he's cost? Yes, but like I say, Liverpool wouldn't have spent that much money if they didn't think he was capable of doing it, and I think he'll take it in his stride.
Well, Klopp rested players for the league game. It cost him. Mo Salah, Philippe Coutinho, both ruled out already. Sadio Mane travelled to Africa 24 hours before for the Confederation of African Football Player of the Year. Right, how would the fans feel about Klopp making too many other changes? This is, after all, against Everton.
Regardless of whether it was against Everton or not, I think the supporters would be disappointed, because I think we've got to be realistic. Manchester City have won the Premier League now. So the teams that are around them, the rest of the teams, you know, if they're not just fighting for fourth, they want to have some silverware as well. So a lot of the teams will be looking and thinking, right, OK, this is going to be our best chance of getting some silverware. So now all of a sudden the FA Cup becomes one of the priorities. The Champions League is on the back burner for a little while, so that's not an issue at the moment. So I would be very surprised if the top teams in the Premier League didn't play their strongest teams, and that goes for Liverpool as well.
Everton effectively safe now under Sam Allardyce. You have to go back to 1995, pull right out with the goal, the Dogs of War in midfield. Everton under Joe Royle creating an upset. It's about time Everton won a trophy. Do you think they'll have a real tilt at this?
Yeah, I think you've just said it there. They're not going to be in a relegation trouble. So, you know, they're going to have mid-table, so they can really go for it in the FA Cup. They've got players who can cause problems for Liverpool. People questioned Everton going to Liverpool and then just sitting back and, you know, looking to frustrate them, and it wasn't the way that they want teams to play. You go to Liverpool and go toe-to-toe with them, they will take you to the cleaners. And Sam Allardyce is aware of that, so I'm not saying he'll do exactly the same thing, but he won't change too much. I think he'll allow Liverpool to do all the running, not allow any spaces in behind, and if Calvert-Lewin plays, look to try and use him on the counter-attack. So I think he'll go there with a strong team, because, like I say, they've got nothing to lose, because the simple fact is they're not going to get relegated, in my mind. I think they're going to be well clear of it. So this is one cup competition they can really go for.
How much do you see similar? Premier League takes a break this weekend. It's time for us to just take a break, draw breath, and just assess what we have seen, and in particular the headline makers of this season, Manchester City. tight defensively this season, but absolutely wonderful going forward, and particularly against teams who've tried everything to stop them scoring. You've had a look to see what they do.
It's been fascinating to watch them. It's been brilliant to watch them, the way that most teams that play against them, whether they play a 4-3-3, a 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, inevitably it ends up a 4-5-1. Now, what's been so good about Manchester City is more often than not they do play a 4-3-3, and that system doesn't change, but there's been little tweaks in what the players are doing within that system. And you can tell that Guardiola works very hard on it before each game, looking at where the strengths and the weaknesses are of the opposition. So I just want to take a look at two games. I think it's the Swansea game and the Watford game. So if we, first of all, we're just going to look at the back four and the midfield. We talked about it being a midfield five, so we'll bring him in here as well. So the key players in this situation were Sterling out wide right, and you had Sane out wide left. That's obviously as wide as he'll go at the moment. Now, the problem that they found themselves with, as we've spoken about before, if the full-backs go man for man, because they don't want to allow Sterling or Sane to have too many touches on the ball because they're going to get a crossing, or they're going to get at pace and they're going to trouble the full-back. So what happens is, full-backs go out there, the full-backs go out there.
Is that your natural instinct as a full-back?
It would be, yes, if your winger gets the ball. But the problem you have then, and this is what Manchester City did really well. Now we talk about David Silva, we talk about De Bruyne. These four, and Aguero as well, but it was mainly these four players that created the opportunities, created the problems for Watford. Because what happened then was that if the full-backs were separated, as we've shown, these were the spaces. De Bruyne would get in there, David Silva would get in there, and it was a real issue, a real problem all game for them. So then, at that point, they said, OK, well, what we're going to do, our full-backs are now going to become more narrow. So the full-backs became more narrow because of the simple fact what was happening now was that these gaps were too big. So, OK, the spaces weren't there for David Silva and De Bruyne like they were previously. Now, the spaces were here. And it's no surprise that City scored from crosses coming into the box. So all of a sudden, this space was huge because we're talking about the full-backs being wary of the runs from Silva, from De Bruyne, and these were the spaces again. So that was brilliant to watch, just how they actually looked at Watford and thought of a game plan. Yes, they scored after 39 seconds, but it didn't change the way that Manchester City played. That was obviously a plan for them to get. That was obviously a plan for them to get at Watford. Now, if we look at City v Swansea, let's just get this first. So this was the line.
Is Ross Barkley on his way to Chelsea? We understand Everton have held talks with their Premier League rivals and a deal is close. This is Transfer Centre. He nearly moved to Stamford Bridge in the summer, but is Ross Barkley ready to swap Everton for Chelsea? The latest on that deal coming up. Big transfer news coming out of Liverpool this morning as well. Will Emre Can be leaving the club for Serie A this summer? What does the future hold for Theo Walcott? Arsene Wenger's had his say on his future this morning.
Yeah, it's really beginning to hot up, isn't it? Lots of managers having their say on the big deals throughout the day. Let's get more on one of them right now. We understand there have been talks between Everton and Chelsea over the sale of this man, the midfielder Ross Barkley, and that the two clubs are close to reaching a deal, but that no fee has yet been agreed. Some outlets are reporting that the player is undergoing a medical. We're checking those stories out, of course. Remember, the England international nearly joined Chelsea last summer and hasn't played for Everton this season due to a long-standing hamstring injury. Sky sources telling us Tottenham no longer retain an interest in the player.
Well, it was one of the more bizarre non-transfers of the last window, wasn't it? Would Chelsea be a good move for Ross Barkley with all that's gone behind?
Yeah, I think so. I think in the summer, obviously, there was question marks whether he was fit or what have you, and he probably wanted to go to a club and try and hit the ground running in terms of being fit. So I think he finds himself in a good position now. We've seen the way that he drives with the ball. I still think he's a fantastic player. I think it's just about getting the best out of him now. And, you know, I think that Chelsea could do that. Like I say, if it does go through, I think he's got so much potential. I think he's a player that has so much to offer. If he gets himself back and firing and fit as he was and in the form that he was in, I believe that, you know, he will be back playing, or at least in the England squad.
OK, does he get into that Chelsea team? If so, who makes way for him?
I think it's interesting. If you look at Chelsea now, they do play more of a 3-5-1-1 instead of the 3-4-3. So there's 3 positions in that central midfield area. So you're always going to have Kante there that's going to be sitting. And dependent on the toughness of the game, you can play a more defensive midfielder in Bakayoko, or you could have a Fabregas or a Barkley in there. So it's options for him. But I think if he goes there and shows his worth, then there's no reason why he won't be playing in that team.
This one is nearing completion. Our understanding is that a medical is taking place this morning to complete the signing of Cenk Tosun from Besiktas. Everton are working towards getting everything done by midday. If they manage to get the striker registered in time, there is a possibility he'll be involved as a substitute for this evening's FA Cup third-round tie away to Liverpool. He's costing £27 million.
27, bizarre to say it. Not much in today's market, is it? Cenk Tosun. Is this the signing Everton need?
Well, I think obviously Lukaku, when he left the football club, he left a huge void. So they are missing a goal scorer. Obviously, he knows where the back of the net is. They've got plenty of players that can create opportunities for centre forward. So I think that will have been on Sam Allardyce's wish list to bring in a centre forward that knows where the back of the net is, because, you know, Calvert-Lewin's done very well there. He's only a young player still, but, you know, I think it could be a good sign, especially when you've got the likes of Rooney, you've got the likes of Sigurdsson, that will create opportunities for these players.
OK, let's keep it Merseyside. This time, the red half. Our Sky colleagues in Italy are reporting that Emre Can has reached an agreement in principle to join Juventus this summer. We understand Liverpool are trying to persuade the Germany international to stay, but Can has made his choice and discussed a financial package with Juve. The midfielder is out of contract this summer and is free to negotiate with overseas clubs. He doesn't need to keep Liverpool informed of his plans beyond this season, if indeed he's to leave Anfield.
So his chance stats for the season: he's made 15 starts for Liverpool in the Premier League. He has played 1,358 minutes, 3 assists, 15 chances created, passing accuracy 86%. Emre Can. Oh, well, who can forget that wonder goal against Watford? What a strike that was. His duties, though, perhaps a bit more understated, but valuable nonetheless, Danny.
Yeah.
How big a loss would he be for Liverpool?
I think he would be a big loss. I think he's a player that can get forward and support the front men. He can sit if needs be. So I think Liverpool would be really reluctant to let him go. If they could get him a contract that he'd be willing to sign, then, you know, that'd be great news for the football club. But the fact that it's got to this point would suggest that, you know, Can is maybe looking or ready for a move himself, which would be disappointing, because I think he's quite a big player for Liverpool. What
are your thoughts about Philippe Coutinho?
Oh, I think he's going to go. I think a lot of people are saying, well, you know, he's going to go in January. Listen, it may well happen, but I'd be surprised if he was to go in January, because he can't play in the Champions League for Barcelona. So does that mean he is going to play other games other than in the Champions League? I think he's best at Liverpool till the end of the season. If they can get an agreement which says he will join in the summer, obviously dependent making sure there's no injuries, then I think that would suit everybody, because, you know, if he can keep performing the way he's performing, then there's no reason why, you know, Liverpool couldn't do well in the Champions League and get another top 4 place finish. So I'd be disappointed if he left in January.
I'm always one for a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And why not? If Coutinho went, and there's talk about Jesus' injury and Alexis Sanchez, perhaps his move being accelerated to Manchester City because of that. But if Coutinho were to go, would Liverpool perhaps cast their eye down towards Arsenal and Alexis Sanchez, or is his mind set on City?
They may do, but I don't see him as a replacement for Coutinho. I think he's a completely different player. He's more of a higher up the pitch, wants to get on the end of things using his pace, whereas Coutinho, he can split a defence open with his pass. So although it could be the destination for Sanchez, I don't think I would see him as a replacement for Coutinho, because I don't think they're like-for-like players.
OK, let's go from the northwest down to North London. Our Sky colleagues in Italy reported yesterday that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang of Borussia Dortmund was a target for Arsenal if, as Danny mentioned, Alexis Sanchez joins Manchester City in this window. Here's Arsene Wenger on that.
Just in terms of, obviously, transfer windows are open, there's been a lot of talk. There have been suggestions that you're showing an interest in Aubameyang as a possibility. Can you just...
No, it's not a possibility.
No, it's not a possibility. Wenger ruling that one out. How good a fit would he have been, though?
I think he would have been a good fit, but I would imagine that Arsene Wenger's probably going to going to wait to do the majority of his business in the summer. You know, he's still got Ozil, he's still got Sanchez. Like I say, Sanchez could go in January, but like, once again, I don't see Aubameyang really as a straight replacement for Sanchez. So I think Arsene Wenger, if he can, I think he'll try and keep hold of Ozil and Sanchez till the summer and then look and re-evaluate and see where the situation is then.
Is there such a thing around, though, as a straight replacement for Sanchez?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. But the thing is, if you're going to bring a player like Aubameyang in, you're going to be playing him. You're going to be paying big money for him. So
maybe you have to change what you're doing slightly because you've lost Sanchez.
Yeah, but he's not. I don't see Arsene Wenger ever going and playing two up front. He's not going to play Lacazette and Aubameyang together. I don't see that transpiring. I don't see that happening. So if you bring Aubameyang in, Lacazette, I know he's been on the bench a couple of times, but he's starting to find form now, and the goals will follow. I don't see Lacazette being happy to sit on the bench with Aubameyang coming in. So I think he'll have to reassess his squad, look at the squad, see what they've got in the summer, and then I think he'll look to make the changes needed then.
OK, not done with Arsenal just yet. That's because Theo Walcott has been linked strongly with a return to Southampton, of course, who could offer him games in the run-up to England's World Cup campaign in Russia. We're told St Mary's would be his likely destination if he's to be sold. But Wenger is clear on what he wants for the striker.
I want him to stay.
You've been linked with Southampton, going back to Southampton, haven't you?
I heard that, yes, I heard about that, but personally I want him to stay.
He wants him to stay, but yet he won't play him. What would you feel if you're Theo? I hear my manager saying I want him to stay, but I want him to stay.
Yeah, if you're Theo Walcott, you want to be playing. You know, he's 28 years of age now. He's coming towards the prime of his career, and he wants to be playing. So, you know, I think he's still got 18 months left on his contract. But like I say, I'm sure that he will want to be playing because he's a proven Premier League player, and on his day, you know, he's a very good Premier League player.
So where does he go? Southampton has been mentioned.
Yeah, you can see the Southampton connections, obviously, with the simple fact that it's his former club, but I think there's a middle ground in between Arsenal and Southampton. You know, I'm not saying it would happen, but even a team like, you know, you look at someone like Everton or somebody like that are on the rise, are a better team than Southampton. You know, I think we have to say that Southampton find themselves in a bit of trouble. So I think there's a middle ground in between Arsenal and Southampton, and if he does go, it'll be interesting to see where he does go. Yeah,
Arsenal made their first signing of the January transfer window yesterday after bringing in the Greek defender Konstantinos Mavropanos. Here he is with his new teammates at Arsenal training. This morning, the centre-back will be loaned out with Wenger confirming that the club in Germany is his most likely destination.
He's with us, yes. The plan is that he goes out on loan to play somewhere.
When he goes out on loan, will that be an English club? Will he go back abroad? Will he play? Have you any ideas where you prefer him to go?
It can be a German club. I prefer him to play where it doesn't really matter, that he plays in the top, at the top level and gains experience. He's 20 years old, and so he needs, for a defender, central defender, is not ready to start for us. So it's important he gains experience.
Let's bring you some breaking news. You can see it on the bottom of your screen. 8 players have been nominated for the Premier League Player of the Month for December. Marcos Alonso, Marco Arnautovic, Roberto Firmino, Harry Kane, Jesse Lingard, Riyad Mahrez, Nicolas Otamendi and Mohamed Salah are the names on that list. Now next, could Andy... More transfer news right now. It's Aidan McGee.
Cheers, Rob. Let's get down to the London Stadium there, and a very encouraging point for the Hammers at Wembley last night, and stories have circulated that West Ham striker Andy Carroll could be on his way out of the London Stadium. We understand talks were held at Newcastle with a view to bringing him back to St James's Park, but that Rafa Benitez wasn't keen on that idea. There were also suggestions late last night that Carroll was a target for Chelsea. That, though, is news to his manager, David Moyes.
We talked about you tonight about Andy Carroll, Chelsea wanting Andy Carroll. Were you aware of that?
I've no idea about it, no. So I couldn't tell you one way or the other, no.
He has no idea about it, but let's investigate it. Chelsea, of course, have Alvaro Morata as their first choice striker. But how does Andy Carroll compare to their number 2? That's Michy Batshuayi this season. Well, Carroll has started 5 more games and played 436 more minutes, but they both scored 2 goals, and therefore Batshuayi has a better minutes per goal rate, a better It's a strange one, but actually it's not as strange if you stop to consider it. Would he fit in at Chelsea, Andy Carroll?
Yeah, I think that he would. I think if we look at the way that Chelsea like to play, they like to use the width with the wing backs. Likes of Zappacosta, Alonso, Moses. You've got Azpilicueta who gets forward from one of them 3 centre-back positions. And he's always looking for Morata. And the one thing that they don't have is a like-for-like with Morata. So with Andy Carroll, he's arguably one, if not the best attackers of the ball, heading-wise, centre-forward-wise in the Premier League. So you could see why it would make sense for Chelsea to do that. He could come on and change games. One thing that we have seen with Andy Carroll is that he has caused a lot of problems for Chelsea's defence over the last season or so, and I think that'll be in Conte's mind as well. So it doesn't surprise me that he's been mentioned with Chelsea at all, because I think that, you know, he may be more of an impact player if he goes to Chelsea, but I don't think it would be beyond the realms of reality for it to happen.
Yeah, is a striker what they need in this window? Is that their #1 priority?
I think so, yeah, because they do use all the substitutions. And listen, when you play for top clubs, it's very difficult to have two top class or two world-class centre forwards, because one of them's going to have to settle with a position on the bench. So what you want is a centre forward who can come onto the pitch and make a real impact, you know, maybe score that goal when the game is tight. So I just think that it could be a fantastic signing for Chelsea. I think everywhere else, if they do get Barkley, and he's looked to strengthen the spine of the team, and he's done that.
OK, let's get all the way up to the Etihad and find out what the runaway leaders are doing in terms of strengthening while they're at the top. Sky sources saying Manchester City remain interested in signing Johnny Evans from West Brom in this window. The big question remains whether Arsenal will also renew their interest. For now, at least, West Brom boss Alan Pardew says Evans is staying at the Hawthorns. Let's stay with Manchester City, though, because it doesn't appear that Evans is their only defensive target. Sky sources telling us City are interested in signing Real Sociedad defender Inigo Martinez. The 26-year-old centre-back has 4 caps for Spain and could address some of City's injury concerns in defence.
How much does City need a centre-back?
I don't think they need any defenders at the minute, do they? The way they're playing.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at Kompany...
Vincent Kompany, in my mind, when fit, consistently, still one of the best centre-backs in Europe. But it's the fact that, you know, he does get the injuries. So
then you're relying on Otamendi and John Stones, as we've seen. John Stones has picked up an injury, and Mangala is obviously not trusted by...
I've seen a couple of games where John Stones has come off to be rested because he's maybe played 65, 70 minutes, and he's actually gone and put Walker at centre-back and moved Danilo over to right-back. So... yeah, I do think there'd be a centre-back. I think Johnny Evans, he would fit into that category as well. Knows the Premier League inside out. Still at a very good age. Very good with the ball at his feet. We know that Pep Guardiola wants his centre-backs to play out from the back as well. So I think it would make sense for a player like Johnny Evans to go there. It's obvious that there is interest there because of, I believe there was interest in the summer as well. So that wouldn't be one that would surprise me in the slightest.
It seems incredible to say with what City have done so far this season, but how much do they need to improve their squad?
I don't think massively. I really don't, because I think they've got a fantastic depth within the squad. You know, they can rotate the team and actually not look any weaker for it. Defensively, you would probably say maybe they could do with one player. You know, maybe a centre-back that can just give that little bit more competition, that little bit more balance as well. Johnny Evans, we know he's comfortable on his left-hand side as well. So I think it would make sense, and that would be the only real area that Manchester City may look at, because I just don't see anywhere else where they need to be doing that. I always say you need 2 players for every position. And obviously with Mangala, there's doubts over there. You've got John Stones, you've got Otamendi, and obviously Kompany, who in my mind, like I say, is still a top-class centre-back, but he's keeping him fit. So therefore, they could possibly be one short, and it could be someone like Johnny Evans that fits that bill.
OK, let's get all the way down to the South Coast and Brighton. A solid start to the season, first half of the season for them. And Chris Hughton hasn't ruled out signing a few reinforcements in this window. Here's what he had to say on those links with Moussa Dembele of Celtic.
Categorically, there hasn't been any communication between the 2 clubs. Hence, he is a name along with lots of other names.
So, will there be any contact?
Pure speculation.
He took a long time to pause there, didn't he? Who said Dembele? It looked like when he came off in the Old Firm game that he was saying goodbye in some ways, didn't he? Would he succeed in the Premier League?
I think so. I think he's got all the attributes. I think he's quick. I think he's strong. So I don't think that would be an issue. I think with Brighton as well, I think there's only 2 teams that have scored less than Brighton as well. So I'm sure they'll probably be after a goal scorer in the transfer window.
OK, we're going to stay on the south coast, but make no mistake, that's 2 hours, even on a good day, down the M27. But Bournemouth didn't do much business last January. But will that change this year? Will the injuries to strikers Jermaine Defoe and Josh King force Eddie Howe's hand? Let's hear from him right now.
The intent of the club is not to be, at this moment, overly active in the transfer market. There will be things happening, of course. Younger players going in and out on loan, potentially, and other things. But things can change in football, so we've got to be have our fingers on the pulse and be ready to move and act if we feel we need to.
Let's bring you some transfer news from Scotland now. Let's update you on a couple of the deals there. We understand Jamie Murphy will sign a 3.5-year deal at Rangers. That's after they agreed a fee in the region of £1 million with Brighton for the forward. One other line to bring you from Scotland, Lewis Morgan, expected to complete his move from St Mirren to Celtic. The midfielder completed a medical yesterday. Middlesbrough were the Championship's biggest spenders during the summer, but does new head coach Tony Pulis expect them to be busy in this transfer window?
I think with the money that's been spent at the football club and what Steve has spent so far this year, you know, I think it'd be really disrespectful if I was just, you know, banging a door down and asking for more players and more money and more players and more money. I think you know, the most important thing is to find out exactly what. If we can find a team that's really balanced and can do things.
Different club, different kit, but he still stands up for those news conferences. Right, OK, transfer window now. What have we got? 26 days, 11 hours, 36 minutes and 58 seconds. Right, who needs to do the most business?
Oh, I think West Brom. I think they need to do something because they haven't had that bounce from Alan Pardew coming in like the other managers going to other Premier League clubs have. So I'd imagine that they would. I think Southampton. You know, obviously Charlie Austin's out, so he's a big miss. Scoring goals has been a problem for them. And I'd also say Stoke City. The amount of goals they're conceding, you know, they need someone to solidify that, whether it be someone coming in midfield or, mind you wouldn't say another defender because they have signed quite a few. So those would be the 3 clubs that I'll be looking at. I always feel that January is a time for teams at the bottom of the league, and them signings will dictate whether teams get out of the mess that they're in or actually don't. You look at Sam Allardyce at his previous clubs, Sunderland and Crystal Palace, the signings he made in January kept his teams up. Stoke City, when I was there the first year in the Premier League, we signed Matty Everington and James Beattie. They got us over the line comfortably. So I think the best business more often than not is done at the bottom of the league. Don't get me wrong, every now and then you'll get a Vidic to Manchester United or a Suarez to Liverpool, but the key elements, the key signings, I believe, are the ones down the bottom of the league that need to get themselves safe.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember Hartson and Kitson coming into West Ham all those years ago and turning it around. But Hull tried it last season, it didn't work.
Well, you can't just go out and get, you know, players
they've got to bed in quickly.
They've got to bed in quickly, and you've got to know exactly what's needed. And a lot of the time, it will be defensive players that come in and do make that difference. You know, like I say, Allardyce at Sunderland, I think he brought in Kone and he brought in a central midfielder. At Crystal Palace, he brought in Milivojevic and it helped. You know, I think he brought in Sacco as well, so it always helps. So I think the teams that are down at the bottom, they will look for the more defensive-minded players.